A young man named Andrew Carter was recently chosen as the head of Summit Edge Systems, an innovative software company on the verge of major growth. Andrew, however, wasn't content to assume his new role without first gaining a deeper understanding of the workplace environment, beyond what polished reports and prepared presentations could tell him. He wanted to uncover the unspoken truths about the company culture and how employees were genuinely treated. To achieve this, Andrew devised a bold experiment. He decided to go undercover as a job applicant, taking on the persona of Brian Jacobs. He wanted to see how hiring managers evaluated potential employees and whether unconscious biases played a role in their decision-making. As part of the disguise, Andrew added an additional twist. He would pretend to have a visual impairment and require assistance during the interview process. This would allow him to observe not only professional judgments, but also personal attitudes towards someone perceived as having a disability. Andrew arrived at the Summit Edge headquarters, a sleek, modern building humming with activity. Inside the waiting area, a dozen applicants sat nervously clutching their resumes. Andrew, wearing dark glasses and holding a white cane, slowly navigated his way to a seat. His movements were deliberate, giving him time to observe the subtle dynamics of the room. Among the group of recruiters was Karen Blake, a senior HR officer known for her sharp wit and commanding presence. Karen, who was assigned to evaluate the candidates, greeted the group with a professional but brisk demeanor. When Andrew's turn came, Karen raised an eyebrow at his arrival, her tone shifting ever so slightly. "Mr. Jacobs, is it?" she asked, her voice measured but curious. "Yes, that's me," Andrew replied warmly, holding out his hand. Karen hesitated for a fraction of a second before shaking his hand. She gestured toward the interview room without offering further assistance. "Right this way," she said, her expression unreadable. Inside, the interview began formally enough. Karen asked questions about Andrew's supposed experience and skills. However, as the discussion progressed, subtle biases began to emerge. Karen seemed to question whether Andrew could handle the demands of the role. "This position requires a lot of precision and speed," she said at one point, her tone laced with doubt. "Do you think you can keep up?" Andrew nodded confidently. "I'm very detail-oriented and have developed efficient systems to stay organized, regardless of any challenges," he responded, maintaining his composure. Karen leaned back in her chair, tapping a pen against her notepad. "I see," she said curtly, but her skepticism was evident. As Andrew left the room, he couldn't ignore the condescending looks exchanged by a few of the other team members who had overheard parts of the interview. After the interview, Andrew lingered in the lobby under the pretense of waiting for transportation. While sitting there, he overheard two other applicants discussing their interviews. One of them, a soft-spoken woman named Mia, shared her frustration about a dismissive comment Karen had made during her interview. "She practically laughed when I mentioned my coding experience," Mia said. "I don't think she took me seriously." Andrew took note of this interaction. It wasn't just about him. Karen's behavior might reflect a deeper issue within the company's hiring practices. To add another layer to his experiment, Andrew struck up a conversation with one of the junior HR assistants, a friendly man named Peter, who was tasked with organizing the applicants. Peter seemed genuinely curious about Andrew's background and showed a level of empathy and professionalism that Karen had lacked. "I hope you're feeling okay about the process," Peter said. "If you need any accommodations, let me know." Andrew smiled. "Thank you. I appreciate that," he replied. Peter's kindness stood out starkly against Karen's dismissive attitude, giving Andrew hope that not all corners of the organization were affected by bias. Later that afternoon, Andrew returned to the office in his true role as CEO, dressed in his usual attire and carrying a confident air. The company had arranged a town hall meeting to introduce him to the staff. The spacious conference hall buzzed with energy as employees gathered to meet their new leader. Karen sat near the front, oblivious to what was about to unfold. Andrew stepped onto the stage and addressed the crowd with a warm smile. "Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to join such a talented team. Before we begin, I'd like to share an experience I had earlier today." The room grew silent as Andrew recounted his undercover role as an applicant, carefully recounting his observations without naming names. Yet, He spoke about the importance of judging individuals based on their abilities and potential rather than their appearance or perceived limitations. As his words sank in, Karen's expression shifted from curiosity to unease. Andrew's piercing gaze landed briefly on her as he concluded, "A workplace should be a space where everyone feels valued and respected, regardless of how they arrive at the door." Andrew then introduced a new initiative aimed at fostering inclusivity within Summit Edge Systems. Starting today, we will launch training programs focused on recognizing and addressing unconscious biases, he announced. We'll also be revising our hiring practices to ensure fairness at every step of the process. As the audience applauded, Andrew added, "And for those who are already working here, know this. My goal is to create an environment where you can all thrive. I'm here to listen and to act." Karen shifted uncomfortably in her seat, while Peter looked on with a mix of surprise and pride. Andrew's words signaled not only a new chapter for the company, but also a personal mission that had just begun. In the weeks that followed, Andrew planned to personally oversee the cultural transformation of Summit Edge Systems. He reached out to employees like Mia and Peter to gain their insights and began hosting open forums to address concerns. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning. In the weeks following Andrew Carter's powerful revelation at Summit Edge Systems, the company began a journey of introspection and transformation. His decision to go undercover had sparked a ripple effect, forcing everyone to confront not just the biases exposed during his experiment, but the deeply ingrained patterns that had shaped the company's culture for years. Yet Andrew understood that change would not happen overnight. It would require ongoing effort, uncomfortable conversations, and unwavering commitment. Andrew's first step was to assemble a task force dedicated to inclusivity and fair hiring practices. This group, which he named the Equity Collective, included a diverse mix of employees from various departments and levels of seniority. Mia, the soft-spoken candidate who had struggled to have her skills taken seriously, was invited to join as an external consultant. Peter, the empathetic HR assistant, was promoted to a leadership role within the team. "It's not about pointing fingers," Andrew explained during their inaugural meeting. "It's about shining a light on areas where we can grow. Our goal is to make this company a place where talent thrives, free from bias or barriers." The Equity Collective wasted no time. They overhauled the recruitment process, introducing anonymized resume screening to minimize initial judgments based on gender, race, or other visible characteristics. Interview panels were diversified to include voices from different backgrounds, ensuring a broader perspective in candidate evaluations. Karen Blake, whose behavior had been a catalyst for this transformation, was given the opportunity to attend intensive training sessions and reflect on her actions. She expressed a desire to change, though her journey was only beginning. Beyond structural changes, Andrew wanted to humanize the conversation around bias and discrimination. He introduced a monthly Story Circle event where employees could share personal experiences in a safe and supportive environment. At the first session, Andrew opened up about his own struggles early in his career, facing skepticism because of his unconventional ideas and quiet demeanor. "I was often overlooked because I didn't fit the mold of what a leader was supposed to look like," he admitted. "That's why this mission matters to me. I don't want anyone else to feel like their potential is dismissed before they even have a chance to prove themselves." Mia also shared her story, recounting how difficult it had been to break into a male-dominated field as a woman of color. Her courage inspired others to step forward, including a veteran employee who revealed how she had been quietly battling ageism in her role. These shared stories created a sense of solidarity among employees. It wasn't just about improving the company. It was about building a culture of understanding where everyone felt seen and valued. Karen's transformation was slow but genuine. During one of the Story Circle sessions, she openly apologized for her past behavior, addressing both Andrew and the broader group. "I didn't realize how my words and actions could discourage someone from feeling they belonged," she said, her voice trembling. "I see now that I have a responsibility, not just as a professional, but as a human being, to do better." Andrew appreciated her willingness to own her mistakes, but he also made it clear that words alone were not enough. Karen was assigned to mentor incoming HR recruits, using her experiences as a learning tool to help others recognize and confront their biases. Over the next few months, the impact of these changes began to take root. Employee satisfaction surveys showed significant improvements in morale and engagement. New hires frequently commented on how inclusive and welcoming the interview process felt. Productivity soared as teams began to embrace the diverse talents and perspectives that had previously gone unnoticed. Andrew's undercover experiment became the stuff of legend within the company, not as a scandal, but as a testament to his commitment to fairness and integrity. Employees affectionately referred to it as the Brian Jacobs Project, and the name became synonymous with the company's ongoing efforts to build a culture of accountability and respect. Despite the progress, Andrew knew the work was far from complete. A culture isn't built in a day, he reminded his team during a company-wide meeting. It's something we shape together every single day through our choices and actions. As Summit Edge Systems grew, Andrew remained steadfast in his vision, ensuring the company would be a beacon of inclusivity in the tech industry. He envisioned expanding the Equity Collective's initiatives to community outreach programs, offering mentorship opportunities to underrepresented groups, and partnering with organizations that shared their values. For Andrew, the undercover experiment wasn't just a leadership tactic. It was the beginning of a broader mission. It wasn't enough to change one company. He wanted to set a precedent that other organizations could follow, proving that prioritizing equity wasn't just morally right, but also the key to unlocking untapped potential. And so, Summit Edge Systems entered a new chapter, not as a perfect company, but as one willing to confront its flaws and strive for a better future. The journey wasn't over, and that was precisely what made it so meaningful.